All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from this morning, whether it's live or elsewhere. If you had a chance to take a look at the title or you've been keeping track of the promo that we have been running for today, is that you'll know that we will be talking Exist today and celebrating the anniversary of that film, which it's hard to believe. It's been 15 years, y'all. So without further ado, let me get into each of our respective guest introductions. So first off, our first guest has been providing his talents not only as a screenwriter for more than a decade with such films such as Two Front Teeth, Altered, Lovely Molly, of course, VHS2, and also The Night Watchman. But he has also provided his talents as a director with A Comedy of Horrors, Volume 1, and of course, most recently with Last Night at Terrace Lanes. It is my pleasure to welcome. Oh, and let me go a step further and also say not only writer, director, but also resident juggler, Jamie Nash. So let me introduce someone now. Hello, sir. How
Hey, there I am. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? No juggling in exists. It would have been much better if Bigfoot did a little juggling, but no juggling in exists. How's it going?
Absolutely, absolutely. Good, good, good. So, our next guest that I like to introduce on, he does not need any introduction. He is he has provided his talents not only as the director on the small screen for projects such as not only Supernatural, Queen of the South, Yellow Jackets, but also on the big screen for, of course, Altered, Seventh Moon, Lovely Molly, VHS2, and most recently, Satanic Hispanics. It is my pleasure to welcome director, writer, and also Star Wars collector slash hoarder. Sorry, just kidding. Eduardo Sanchez. Let me bring him on. Eduardo, hello.
Hello. Yeah, Star Wars hoarder for sure.
All right, gentlemen. So again, thank you for taking the time to talk Exist today. And I guess I'll start first by just talking about. I guess I'll start first by going in just your overall collaboration as it as it stands, and I guess you can say the birth of that collaboration, because I feel like the manner in which both of you guys have met was very serendipitous, to say the least. With all the similarities that you guys have of not only discovering that you guys were not that far from each other in Maryland, and both residing in Maryland, both being in the same industry, both having the same birthday, like it just goes on and on and on. So just to start, can you guys talk about just reflecting on that first meeting and what you guys have been able to accomplish together? I mean, obviously, you've done stuff separately, of course, but what you guys have been able to produce together in that time also.
Well, I'll talk the first part, Jamie. Basically, it's after Blair Witch. I was kind of semi-retired, and we tried to get a comedy going. It didn't work, and I just kind of lost motivation. And so there was a guy named Jeff Johnson who's producer, and he was actually a big fan of Blair Witch and helped us kind of get the word out early on. He was looking for scripts for me, and he found this script called Probed by Jamie, and it was kind of the first script that, because my agents were sending me stuff, but it just wasn't really like kind of my, I just wasn't getting inspired by anything. And so I read it and I really loved it. And, so we got in touch and we found out that we live like, less than an hour away from each other. So, and we live in Maryland. I live in Maryland. So it's not like, LA, of course, it's like, oh yeah, of course he lived near you. But it was kind of weird that we both lived in Maryland. And then, so we rewrote, the script together, and we got lucky and got the financing and made that. And, it began a long collaboration that, continues to this day.
Absolutely, Jamie.
Yeah. I mean, I think he said it all. It was really my first thing that was able to go anywhere. I was hustling before that, but I think I optioned one script before that. And when I look back on the one script I optioned, some guy paid me like $10,000, and he was like an independent filmmaker that never made a movie before, and he optioned something for $10,000. They don't pay me that now. Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, wow, this is easy. And he had no chance of ever getting that thing made. It was like a Western too, like a good genre to option as an independent producer. So yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like one of these things that after that one, everything I kind of have done since in some ways has roots in that particular meeting. And it was, it's funny because I sent the script to LA, and I was a big horror fan and a big Blair Witch fan. It said producer of Blair Witch Project. And I sent it to Jeff Johnson, who I was like, who's this guy? And then somehow the call I got was a local call. So, it was a big surprise. And I remember the first time we met was Halloween in Frederick, I think was the first night we met. And it was like a Mexican restaurant in Frederick. That's what I remember. It was a very long time ago.
That's very appropriate, right?
That's right. That's right. I think Ed had just had your second kid, or was it the first kid? It was second. I can't remember.
Yeah, probably second. Yeah.
Second. I think it was your second. I think it was just after.
Gotcha. And to hop right into Exist, I understand, and I recall this, memory serves, that Ed, for Bigfoot, being a big Bigfoot fan yourself, that was always the intention to do a film. And actually, even as a matter of fact, it was the intention to even do it, if I understand correctly, even before Blair Witch, and it kind of weirdly spawned Blair Witch. So, are you able to, comment further on that?
I mean, I've always, wanted to make a Bigfoot movie, and I always felt that like Bigfoot was like, at least the creature was like, just not, there wasn't a really good, I guess movie version of Bigfoot, and even on TV, it's like, you could, it's a guy in a suit. And I felt like, and especially like in the, 80s after Harry and the Hendersons, and then most recently, all the beef jerky ads and stuff, it's like Bigfoot had become like kind of a joke. But to me, it's like it still had these roots in like horror, because I was really, when I was a kid, like those Bigfoot documentaries, and movies like Legend of Boggy Creek, just really scared the crap out of me, and the Patterson Gimlin film is like the original kind of found footage movie, really. And it still kind of creeps me out to this day, so I always felt that like the creature should have been, that there was this possibility of like being able to like, hire, really great artists and really great performers, and do like a real Bigfoot movie where, Bigfoot looks like a real creature and you're actually scared of him. And, he's, they're all ominous and, not $6 Million Man, style, but, just creepier, So, it was the first script idea that I had after Blair Witch that like really for horror that kind of motivated me a little bit. It was this big like a period piece script called Manable Walk, and then we came up with an idea for the first Exist, which was like Jamie was part of that. It was like a big kind of bigger budget found footage movie. That still is a pretty damn good script. And we actually almost sold that movie. We actually Legendary wanted to do it, and then Warner Brothers told them that they didn't want to do a Bigfoot movie, and so you know our we were like, for a minute there we had like this big budget Bigfoot movie. So then after that we kind of just, I was like, look, man, let's just pare it down to like the bare bones, and do a, like a really, as low budget Bigfoot movie as we can do, while at the same time spend the proper amount of money on the suit. And that's where the current version of exists. That's where it was born.
Gotcha. And I want to put up some of the comments here. So thanks, JP. He says this is the best Bigfoot movie ever. So got another fan there, and also has a question. So the question is, and I'm actually going to dive into this too, is deciding on the look of Bigfoot. I mean, I feel like everyone has a kind of a general preconceived notion of what that is, but I mean, I want to give them an opportunity to answer that question as well with either of you.
Yeah, that would be an Ed question for sure.
All right. I mean, really, I think to both Jamie and I, when we, whenever we discuss Bigfoot, I think we kind of come at it from like, not really a supernatural angle. Like we think, like the whole thing is that, this is some kind of offshoot of evolution, of human evolution that, became isolated and like, just kind of somehow survived, and so they're very human in nature. And to me, like, again, another thing that I didn't like about a lot of Bigfoot movies is that they just became like, they were just monsters. They were just like these killing machines that just came out of nowhere and killed people. And for me, it's like, I think we both discussed, it's like, man, this thing is, if Bigfoot exists, it's pretty good at hiding. So it's definitely not going to be aggressive, because, it would have been found out, and captured, many years ago. So it's really good at just kind of avoiding humans. So, what would make this thing, come out and attack people? And we kind of came up with the idea, but the look of it was always based on like, something real. Like we didn't want it to be like superhuman. I mean, it definitely has superhuman strength, but it doesn't have like, crazy strength. It has like the strength of like a gorilla or something, some big primate. And it can definitely tear a human apart very quickly. But the look of it was just kind of like based on, not a monster, but based on a human, like kind of an offshoot of human evolution. So that was always the intent. And that's where we got Weta. Actually, Weta was involved for a little while, and then Spectral Motion took over from Weta, and they designed the outfit, the creature, and I remember getting the drawings and kind of adjusting the look and stuff. But they really got it right away. They got the idea that this thing was at least half human. And then the suit, the suit was built by Spectral Motion, and Brian Steele, right? Brian Steele was the Bigfoot guy, who was like this great, suit performer. And we got really lucky to get Spectrum to get Brian, and it was and that's how. But and then the look, then the walking and all this stuff was developed by Brian. He would send me videos of him like walking around his backyard, and it was kind of cool that somebody took the creature as like a real character, like took it seriously. And I think that was like, for me, that was like the main thing, is that we wanted to be respectful of of Bigfoot, and the people that love it.
Absolutely, and I feel like that's a great segue into my next question. I know with this film, one component of it, and if I recall correctly, is that unlike other films, is found footage films, the intention was to physically have a creature instead of using your imagination, which is what you oftentimes see in the found footage genre, even with Blair Witch, of course. But in speaking of fully realizing Bigfoot. Can you talk also about, some of the stunts that were necessary in order to properly illustrate the abilities of, as you were saying, of Bigfoot? You're just talking about stealing him, trying to create a language in terms of its movement and all of that. So can you comment further on that? Because immediately what comes to mind for me are some of the sequences that you had with the bike. If we're picturing, I guess you guys used a GoPro, I think, for that, or
Yeah. I mean, the movie was, supposed to be shot on GoPros and, consumer grade cameras, and it's like, it's a found footage movie, so it's like there's cameras everywhere. And Jamie and I were like, always struggling to put cameras, everywhere, and even though it's super unrealistic, but that's just the nature of found footage. Um, but but the problem was that at that time when we shot it, the GoPros were, they were great for shooting videos and stuff, like, kind of like consumer videos, but like the visual quality just didn't hold up, especially at night. The image just kind of fell apart. And so, all the GoPro stuff you see, there are probably some GoPro shots in there, but like the stunts in the bike, like in the bikes when they're doing all the crazy stunts and going into the water, I think that those were GoPros. But most of the GoPro stuff is actually like a little, like a, an SLR, like a DSLR, like a little, I don't even know what brand it is. I'm really bad with technical crap. But I mean, it was kind of funny because we had this, for the bike sequence, Sam Davis, who plays, the role. I don't even know what the character's name. It's been so long, but the actor's name's Sam Davis, and we built this like helmet for him with a mount and like this, this 35 millimeter camera on his head. And I was afraid that he was going to break his neck, but he's a strong guy. He's like, no, it's no problem. So, that was, and then, anything on the bike was also, a 35 millimeter, DSLR. So, even though, it says GoPro, that, we couldn't, but now, now it's like, we could have used GoPros. I mean, I wish we could shoot it now, it was so easy, much easier to shoot it now than back then. But, and then the stunts was just like, Brian is like, super athletic dude. Like, he's always, in shape, and like, to do these roles in suits takes a lot out of him. And it's a very, very physically demanding, thing to do. So he trains before every role, and he, he could just run, and then that freaking crazy suit. We were shooting in, near Austin. It was, it wasn't the summer, but it was damn hot. And that bicycle sequence was the first thing we shot with him. And basically we put the camera on the back of an ATV, and then just kind of ran next, he ran through the woods next to us, and got all those cool shots of him in the suit. And then we put him together with the actor on the bike. And then, and Brian, does his own stunts. He's, also a stunt man. So he did the biggest, stunt was like, when he jumps off the cliff and, hits jumps on the camper, and, the probably the coolest shot in the movie. And that was just done with wires, and he jumped probably about, 20 feet. And it was the first time I had used wires like that.
Here's the training question. Here you go.
There's
the photo question.
Testing out the gear. But that was the first time I had used wires, and and it took a while to kind of get the right, the right pull on the wires and stuff. But so we built this cliff, and he jumped off of it, and we created this cool shot. But Brian was just always always up for like doing it whatever it took, and he was just kind of he again, like what I said before, is that he really took the role seriously. And at the end of the movie, I never imagined, I don't think Jamie and I ever imagined that we were going to be able to get that close to the face of the creature.
Yeah.
That sequence was always going to be kind of a wider shot, just kind of a, from a mounted camera on the character. but we were able to get in there when, because Brian was just, first of all, the suit looked amazing, and also Brian was just like, he was all in, man, and like he was the creature, and he just put in a fantastic performance, and obviously we wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were just commenting on I guess the trailer sequence. Can you also talk, further about, that another component of that sequence in which, you're having that tumble that's happening and being able to capture that? Because that was really impressive of being able to, under the context of doing it within a found footage, lens of seeing that tumble happen on top of, what happened, as you said, by the end of the sequence with
You mean the camper tumble?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was yeah, it was,
Hopefully I'm
it's
not
crazy.
bringing
I
any
mean,
traumatic
basically
experiences of how difficult
three
it was.
it's 3 stunt people in the trailer, and the effects people, these great guys from Texas, these brother, anyway, I mean, I work with them a lot. We worked with them also on Queen of the South. I work with them, but they basically put the trailer on these on the gimbal, like kind of, just to be able to rotate it. And they put, we softened up as much of the inside as possible. And then we we just had these stunt people tumbling in this, like a clothes dryer, basically. You know what I mean? And and luckily nobody got hurt. You know what I mean? It was, and we mounted the cameras to a bunch of places, and we also had a camera that kind of went back and forth, kind of have some movement in there that wasn't mounted, and and shot it with a bunch of different cameras and just kind of edited together. And it was one of those things where, like, it definitely was something that was bigger than the budget we had. You know what I mean? Like, it was just because we had such great people and really innovative effects artists. And again, one of those things where, like, and even the shot where the thing tumbles over, you see it start to tumble over the edge of the creek. I mean, that was a big deal, I'm saying, for a low budget movie. But again, we definitely, got the right people for that. And again, that was the kind of the thing of, like, we want to make a cool Bigfoot movie, and we can't spend, a crazy amount of money, but we want to spend the money where we need to spend it. And we hired the, really good people to put that, put all those sequences together.
Excellent. And I was going to say, Jamie, and speaking further to the stunts, I know we've, had this conversation before, and, you're talking about your process as a screenwriter, and what your intent or what your goal is, and being able, especially if it's someone that you've worked with before, being able to help tee up some, what that they what they like to get from you as a writer. So, in talking about that, perhaps there were times, in doing the script for Exists, that, you're teeing up all of these things to happen in the film, and probably maybe, like, it was like, how are we going to do this? Like, this is great, but how are we going to do this? Were there any, like, moments like that perhaps didn't make it, or maybe, it ended up turning out far better than you anticipated? I'm assuming the camper was one part, but maybe there were some other parts in there as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Jamie. Go ahead.
So one thing I wanted to say about the camper that Ed didn't say, didn't somebody break their arm or something in that thing, in the rotisserie?
No.
I thought I was there the first day, and somebody, I don't know.
No, the one of the stuntmen, unfortunately, like, dislocated his shoulder.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering.
Doing this, like, when Sam, again, the guy on the bike, gets hit and does the tumble.
Oh.
We did that with a stuntman, and he messed up his arm. It was terrible. It was one of the worst days.
His stuntmen are wacky. But no, I don't think there was anything in this script. And I am somebody that always writes things that push the envelope a little bit, hoping, expecting people to kind of push back, like Probed even back in the day. I mean, I wrote that in my head. I was like writing that to make on zero budget myself. and there's no way I could have ever pulled that off on zero budget, but that's just the way I always am. I'm like, I always go like that much further with whatever I'm writing, like for the budget. I'm like, well, they'll tell me to take it out, but maybe they'll try. Maybe they'll try to pull it off. And the camper scene was something I remember writing. And I was just kind of doing Bigfoot's greatest hits. I kind of went through all the reported incidents and said, this happened, maybe they threw rocks at one point. Maybe they pushed over a camper at one point. I don't know that anybody ever pushed a camper over a ledge like that or anything, but yeah, I wrote that in and I was just like, well, they'll either figure it out or, pull me back. And the other thing Ed, I don't think mentioned, originally this wasn't going to be found footage.
I was going to ask,
yeah, we had written a conventional script, and it wasn't until like a couple months before that we decided to do found footage. It didn't take much to change it. I mean, I think we changed it in like 2 weeks, and it was found footage. And part of it was budgetary, like how do we pull all these very cinematic shots off on a budget? But and then part of it was it fit because it was Bigfoot, and Bigfoot makes sense in found footage. It's very organic to fit. But the funny thing is, I don't know that any of the stuff that they did, like with the trailer or anything like that, was that much cheaper because it went found footage. Because it was done by Ed and stuff in the big way. Like they did it the hard way. There are a lot of ways you could cheat if you're in found footage, you kind of hide and blur and stuff like that. But most of the stuff, it's shown for almost as much as you would if you did it cinematically, as far as the stunts go and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
The big thing for me of turning it into found footage, and it's something that I think we discussed, Jamie, was that like I was a little scared about like how am I going to photograph the creature on this budget? How am I going to tell the story of the creature with this budget? And again, like there are the great thing about found footage is it's you can make it shaky, you can make it far away, you can give it a weird angle, and there is this like you can cheat. You can only show like, all right, I'm only going to show the arms, or only going to show this part of the scene inside the cabin where Denise, and again, I can't remember her real name, but Denise Williams gets pulled up through the in the chair, and you see her legs dangling. Right. It was like, all right, well, the camera falls and we just cut it off. And in a real movie, you'd have to be in there. And again, it was like I was just kind of started to think it through. I'm like, how that's gonna we're shooting this thing in like 20 days or whatever it was. I'm not gonna be able to do that. Like and obviously, like I think Jamie and I talked about a lot, is that the main thing about this movie was that it we needed to the Bigfoot needed to look good, needed to look like we wanted to make the best looking Bigfoot that had ever been caught on film. And that was really the big emphasis for me, like going from a conventional movie to found footage. It was just made those sequences more realistic.
Well, it looks like someone would agree with these, because Josh seconds that and says, that character, the Bigfoot monster, was impressive, which I agree. So to get into, I know you guys touched on it a little earlier with the location and how that shaped a part, and how maybe it made it easier or maybe it made it trickier in shooting the film. I understand that you shot it not only in Texas, and I guess I'm pronouncing it right, Bastrop. Yeah, Bastrop County, but also at Spiderwood Studios, if I understand. So I also understand, fun fact, that I guess the tree that you guys use in a poster, I guess, is still there. I don't know if you guys have visited. From what I understand, I guess the tree is still there. So, but I
didn't know that. That's interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I knew.
Yeah.
I think they kept the cabin, right?
Well, yeah, I know the cabin is still there, because I've had other people that I've worked with that send me a photo and be like, hey, look where I'm shooting today, and because so other movies have used it, and other TV shows have used it, Yeah, we shot it in we you know, we didn't know where we were going to shoot it. You know, there was a idea of like maybe going to, you know, to you know, to around Portland and shooting somewhere like where, you know, where most of the Bigfoot kind of, you know, the classic Bigfoot, I guess, happens. And then we went down to, I don't know how Spiderwood Studios got you know, on the list, but we went down to visit this place called Spiderwood Studios that is in you know, near Bastrop, Texas, which is, you know, like half an hour from Austin. So, you know, it's not hard to get crew, and they have like these great facilities there. They had like a sound stage, which we didn't really use. But they have like a, you know, shop for our effects guys, and they have you know, area to build, and they had offices, and they actually had like an area where we could like eat inside, and they also had you know, like 100 acres or something of land, and part of it was on the Colorado River. So, you know, really diverse looks. They had fields, and they have like woods. They have like hilly kind of things. So we were like, you know, this is kind of the best of both worlds. They didn't have a cabin, but we figured, you know, we could build one. And you know, and so you know, we had this location that looked like it was in the middle of nowhere, but you know, like just you know, a golf cart ride away, you could go into, you know, air conditioned studios and offices and eat inside, and you know, take a little break from the elements. And you know, the biggest thing in that studios was like the snakes. There's a lot of snakes. It was funny because we went out there early. We went out there in the winter and to scout it. I don't know if you went with us, Jamie, but we you know, we were asking about the snakes, and they're like, "Oh no, there's no snakes out there. We gotten rid of the snakes, you know, years ago or whatever." And then we showed up in the spring, and I'd never seen so many snakes in my life, you know, in the wild. I mean, luckily the snakes, you know, once you move in, they kind of start moving out, but everybody had to wear you know, snake guards, which are these things you wear like along your leg, just so that we wouldn't get bit. And then I think my AD got bit by a snake. We still don't know what exactly happened, because it didn't match like snake bites, but he got hit by something on his ankle. Um, and then, you know, but so it was kind of scary. There was like these water. There's this one road that had so many water moccasins, like it was near the water, and it was just, you would hear them like plopping into the water, you know, from the wood, from the trees. And then some of them were like, "No, I'm not plopping. I'm just going to watch you go by," you know? So it was, we try to avoid that road as much as possible. But yeah, it was a little, it was crazy. But again, it was like the best, you know, when Jamie and I thought of this thing, it was like supposed to be in the middle of the woods. And we were thinking, you know, we had all these, you know, we needed some kind of big hill to roll the camper down, and we had, you know, we needed you know, different types of woods and different types of locations. And Spiderwood was just, you know, there was just so much there, and it was like, again, it was like a really, we were really happy to have found that space, because most places, you know, will have a studio or will have woods, but the, you know, the combination of that was pretty unique. So we took advantage of that location as much as we could.
Gotcha. And you know, in speaking of that, I know you guys were talking about it earlier and how active your stunt actor was. Let me see. I'm brain farting on his name right now. I
Brian
apologize.
Steele.
Brian, yes, Brian Steele. So, like with Brian, can you talk? Considering that location, I'm assuming you guys had fans like within, or maybe you had some type of cooling system for him, because I'm sure, like with all the active stuff that he was doing, it got hot very fast, or maybe not, because I'm seeing you guys laugh. Maybe not. So,
Jamie, were you there for Brian's stuff?
I was, and I talked to him a lot. And
What do you remember?
I remember him losing like, I don't know what he said, like 40 pounds a day or some crazy number from sweat and stuff like that. And he basically had handlers who kept his suit dry and helped to hydrate him. And it was a lot like training for like a marathon or something. Like every day you had to get ready to lose that much fluid, keep hydrated, and all that stuff. But there was no real. There might have been like little fans like that. They brought portable stuff, but there wasn't anything really to help them in that heat until they drove them back to the main offices. So pretty much he was in it for when he was shooting it.
I mean, and he was we could only shoot with him for a certain number of hours, because he's also a SAG actor, so the times are limited,
Right.
and it took so much time to get him in the suit and then also out of the suit, and also just to not kill the man. We only had, I don't know if it was 4 or 6 hours or something that we had. But again, we definitely, we knew we couldn't shoot in the summer because we were, all of us would die in the Texas heat. So we shot in the spring and it was still hot. And I mean, I remember, like Jamie's right. Like I remember because his hands, were foam, the latex foam, and he would, he put his arms down and the sweat would pool in his hand and he would squeeze his hand and it would just like gush out, like the sweat would just gush out. And that suit, like every night, they had to take it off of him and then soak it in alcohol, just to kind of kill the, because it started getting nasty pretty quick. I mean, it's a grown man sweating into a suit, into a hairy suit, and it got nastier and nastier as it went. And thank God for the effects people. They kept the suit together, but it started ripping, and the stuff that Brian was doing with that suit. It's not like, it's designed to do that, but it can only take so much. And but I just remember him sweating, and I just remember him sitting on the, just there sipping Gatorade. And again, like Jamie was saying, he had a couple of people handling him just to bring him stuff, and he couldn't eat, but he had to have like certain protein bars or whatever while he was in, and he had like a schedule. But he's done it so many times, he's kind of one of the, that's why he makes his living. So he has kind of this regiment for just staying in the suit and being able, not dying. And I've I work with Misty Rosas too, who on Altered, she did the alien, and she's also super athletic. I mean, like, almost, she's a gymnast, and almost like they're both kind of like almost like Olympian athletes. You got to be like that in shape to just withstand the time in that suit. But I'm every time I've done a suit thing, I'm very super impressed with the people that do the suit work.
Gotcha. And I was going to say one thing that I found interesting just overall in the message of it. I don't know if it was an intentional message or not, Jamie, but in talking about the just the approach of Bigfoot in and of itself, like it wasn't just there just to be there. Like there was an intent and a purpose as to why it was behaving the way it was, that you could kind of like collect and garner together from what transpired in the film. So, can you talk a bit also about that, of trying to give the monster a purpose as to why it was behaving the way it was versus it just being there just for the sake of being there? Hold on, I can't hear you, Jamie.
I'm sorry, it's me. It's
You're
me
fine.
this time. So yeah, it was we talked a lot about it. I mean, when I was pitched this story, because I had worked on like Ed had said, we had a previous Exist movie or script with Legendary and stuff like that. And kind of what happened was, if I remember correctly, we were going to do like a what's the word, a proof of concept kind of shoot on that and spend a lot of money on that. And the idea was like, what if we just took that money and kind of rolled it into doing one that is closer to that price, the proof of concept price, or something, or at least the proof of concept would cover like a third of the budget or something like that. So Ed had actually pitched me the idea. So he had already had the kind of motivation in place of, they're going to hit the baby kind of thing. Oh, is this, I guess, spoiler free here. It's been 15 years. People have had a chance, but they're going to hit something. And then it's really going to be, it's kind of like a John Wick Bigfoot almost in some ways. Like Bigfoot is really it's a revenge tale, and you can almost watch the movie from that direction. So that was already in place. And getting to the end was interesting because we did have some debate on how to end it. The original ending that I think we came up with is what's in the movie. There was some debate of like, is that enough? Should there be a big battle? Should they, should something else happen? But I think we pretty much stuck with, at the end of the day, after going through all those motions, we stuck with the original. Like, this is what it was about. This was the motivation. And on a bigger picture, we had a lot of discussions like these creatures, probably ruled the land. This was their land, and they've kind of been pushed away, through development and stuff like that. So they're, it's getting smaller and smaller. So they have more and more right to be angrier and angrier as kind of civilization kind of pushes them out of their home.
Gotcha. That's exactly what I was going to ask. You must be psychic. I was going to, considering how ambiguous the ending is, because I noticed and like I said, I'm assuming it was on purpose, we see that there is a method in which the character can get away from the issue, but we don't explicitly see him leave. So, and then on top of that, all the other, what transpires with I won't spoil that part, but the character that basically comes to his aid, the relative that comes to his aid, and how that all transpires and plays out. So, with that being said, I'm gonna wrap it up with you guys. I really do appreciate you guys hopping on a Sunday, nonetheless, to talk exists and to commemorate its anniversary, its 15-year anniversary. It's wild, crazy. But before I let you guys go, can you guys, whoever like to go first, tell folks where they can find you? Tell you what, Jamie, you go first.
Oh, yeah, sure. The easiest place to find me is on Twitter at Jamie_net. If you want to know anything, I do have a website, jamienash.net. I don't know why I said Jamie_net. It's Jamie_Nash. That's my Twitter handle. And my website is jamienash.net. That's what I meant to say.
Cool beans.
I mean, I'm on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called, on Sanchez
right.
on the night. And then on Facebook, there's a group called Hacks and Films that I kind of post on, and that's kind of like the career. I put a lot of stuff, just kind of what's happening and with us, with Jamie, with my fellow collaborators, and what we're doing. I mean, I don't, anyway, whatever. I'm not super active on Twitter.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks again to Eduardo as well as Jamie for hopping on. Be safe out there and see you guys soon. Bye.